Are you ready to unlock your full potential in today's demanding world? Welcome to Bookish Mind, Season 10, Episode E01, where we kick off our deep dive into Cal Newport's transformative book, Deep Work, by exploring why this focused skill is more valuable than ever before. Today, we're diving into the introduction of Cal Newport's incredibly influential book, Deep Work. Really want to grasp this concept. It's becoming crucial, isn't it, for anyone navigating the modern knowledge economy. Our aim really is to unpack why deep work isn't just, a nice-to-have skill. It's more like a powerful fundamental advantage, especially in an economy that's changing faster than ever.
Precisely. And look, this isn't about quick productivity hacks. I mean, those might happen as a side effect. But what's truly fascinating here is understanding this fundamental shift. A shift in what our economy actually values, and how cultivating this specific cognitive ability can unlock really significant opportunities for you, no matter your field. We'll trace its surprising historical roots, maybe confront why we, as modern knowledge workers, seem to be losing it, and then, reveal why it's more valuable right now than it ever has been.
Okay, so let's get right into it. What exactly is this deep work? Cal Newport defines it very clearly. He says, professional activities performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that push your cognitive capabilities to their limit.
Yeah.
And crucially, these efforts create new value, improve your skill, and are hard to replicate. So it's about really wringing every last drop of value from your thinking power, pushing past your comfort zone, and in doing that, actually improving your abilities.
It's not a totally new idea, though. The book opens with this really fascinating story. Carl Jung, in his famous Bollingen Tower retreat, Jung started building this personal sanctuary back in 1922. Secluded spot, Swiss canton of St. Gallen, near Lake Zurich. Started simple, just a stone house. Later added a private office. And he basically said, no one else is allowed in there except with my permission. His fortress of focus, really.
Wow, that's quite a commitment to isolation. There's this journalist, Mason Curry, who actually recreated Jung's routine there. Jung would get up at 7 a.m., big breakfast, then 2 solid hours of undistracted writing time, afternoons, meditation, or long walks. And get this, no electricity, just oil lamp and a fireplace. Bed by 10 p.m. Sounds almost monastic, doesn't it? And it's important to remember, this wasn't some lavish vacation home. Jung apparently couldn't afford one. Just a year before, 1921, he'd published Psychological Types. He was openly disagreeing with Freud then. So to establish his own school of thought, analytical psychology, he absolutely needed intense focus. He had to produce groundbreaking work.
Exactly. His city life in Zurich was hectic, lectures, counseling. But he wanted to fundamentally change how we understood the unconscious. And that required, as Newport puts it, deeper, more careful thought than his hectic city lifestyle allowed. So he retreated to Bollingen, not to escape, no, but to advance his career. He didn't call it deep work, obviously, but his actions. They show someone prioritizing intense, focused effort. He saw it as crucial for his goal of changing the world.
What's remarkable is Jung wasn't alone in this. Not at all. If you look at other influential figures through history, this commitment to deep work, it's a common thread. Think of Michel de Montaigne, the 16th century essayist, private library in his shadow tower, or Mark Twain writing Tom Sawyer in that isolated shed.
Right.
Even more recently, Woody Allen, 44 films, right, all written on a manual typewriter, no computer distractions. Peter Higgs, the physicist, worked in such isolation journalists couldn't even find him after he won the Nobel. And J.K. Rowling, famously off social media while writing Harry Potter, said pen and paper is my priority.
And this isn't just historical figures or, technophobes. Let's connect this to the present. We see similar patterns today. Bill Gates, famous for his Think Weeks, twice a year, total isolation, lakeside cottage sometimes, just reading and thinking big thoughts. It was during one of those, back in '95, he wrote that legendary internet tidal wave memo, completely changed Microsoft's direction. Then you've got someone like Neil Stephenson, the cyberpunk author, almost impossible to reach electronically, his website, no email address. He even wrote an essay on why he's purposefully bad at social media. He says he needs long, consecutive, uninterrupted time chunks for his novels, sees email as the enemy of that deep work.
It's a striking image, isn't it? The way deep work is so common among these high achievers, it stands in really sharp contrast to most modern knowledge workers, who it seems are kind of rapidly forgetting its true value.
So yeah, that raises the crucial question. What explains this decline? Why are we losing this ability? The culprit, according to the book, is pretty clear. Network tools,
Yes.
That's a broad category, right? Email, SMS, social media, Twitter, Facebook infotainment sites, BuzzFeed, Reddit. The rise of these tools, plus, smartphones and constant connectivity, it's fragmented most knowledge workers' attention into slivers.
And the data is pretty stark. A 2012 McKinsey study, cited in the book, found the average knowledge worker spends Get this. More than 60% of the work week engaged in electronic communication and internet searching. And close to 30% of a worker's time dedicated to reading and answering email alone. That's huge.
Which brings us to the opposite concept, shallow work. These are basically the non-demanding tasks,
Yeah.
logistical stuff, often done while your mind's partly elsewhere. Think busy work, the things that don't create much new value, easy for anyone to replicate. In essence, Newport argues we've become like human network routers, just sending and receiving messages all day, constant small hits of distraction.
And this has really dire consequences for deep thinking. Those larger, more complex efforts like developing a new strategy or writing a big proposal, they get fragmented into distracted dashes that produce muted quality. The output just isn't as good. But here's the really scary part. Spend enough time in a state of frenetic shallowness, and you permanently reduce your capacity to perform deep work.
Yeah, that's sobering. Nicholas Carr admitted this very thing. Famous 2008 Atlantic article. He said, "What the net seems to be doing is chipping away my capacity for concentration and contemplation." He even expanded that into his book, The Shallows, Pulitzer finalist, no less.
Yeah.
And the irony, to write that book about losing focus, he had to move to a cabin and forcibly disconnect.
Right. It's not a totally new idea, of course. Other books touch on this. Hamlet's BlackBerry, The Distraction Addiction, they all point to how these network tools mess with our focus.
And look, we'll just stipulate for this discussion that these tools negatively impact deep work. We're not going to get into the whole philosophical debate, good for society, bad for society. Our interest here is more pragmatic. It's about this. The shift toward the shallow is exposing a massive economic and personal opportunity, an opportunity for the few who recognize the potential of resisting this trend and actually prioritizing depth.
And this opportunity is seized by this young consultant, Jason Ben. This story is really compelling for you, the listener. Jason quickly realized that most of this financial consulting work, it could actually be automated by a kludged-together Excel script. What took him 6 hours, or maybe the vet's 3 hours?
Huh?
He got it down to a button click. His professional skills literally captured in a macro.
That's a wake-up call, isn't it? This led Ben to a really bold decision. He quit his job as a, quote, human spreadsheet and decided, I'm going to become a computer programmer. The hitch, of course, was he had no idea how to code. Zero. And learning something that complex, like programming, it requires intense, uninterrupted concentration. It's pure deep work.
And like so many of us today, Ben confessed, I was always getting on the internet and checking my email. I couldn't stop myself. It was a compulsion. He even admitted spending 98% of my time surfing the web during one rough patch. A business plan project just fell to the wayside.
So his method to overcome this, it was drastic, but wow, it was effective. He literally locked myself in a room with no computer, just textbooks, note cards, and a highlighter. He'd highlight the books, transfer ideas to note cards, practice them out loud, like physically engage with the material. He said it was hard at first, these disconnection periods, but he felt he had no other option. Over time, he got better. Reached 5 or more disconnected hours per day, just focused on learning. Read something like 18 books on programming.
And all that preparation, it paid off, big time. He then went to this notoriously difficult dev boot camp, like 100 hours a week, intense coding crash course. A Princeton PhD who went through it called it the hardest thing I've ever done. But Ben, he excelled. Wasn't just okay, he was the top student in his class. While only half the others even graduated on time, his deep work absolutely fueled that success.
The results are just astonishing, really. In only 6 months, he went from making $40,000 a year as a consultant to landing a $100,000 job as a developer in a San Francisco tech startup. 6 months, and he continues to thrive. He even rents an apartment right across the street from his office. Why? To maximize deep work time. He told Newport, on good days, I can get in 4 hours of focus before the first meeting and then another 3 to 4 hours in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And during that time, no email, no hacker news, just programming. Total focus.
Jason Ben's story just perfectly highlights this crucial lesson. Deep work isn't just for, historical figures or people who hate technology. It's a skill that has great value today, right now.
Okay, so let's zoom out again. The broader economic picture. Why is deep work so valuable now? 2 core reasons, according to Newport. First, it's about learning, our information economy. It's built on complex systems that change incredibly fast. Think programming languages, data analysis tools, stuff that didn't even exist 10 years ago. So to stay valuable, you absolutely must master the art of quickly learning complicated things. And that kind of learning, it inherently requires deep work, focus, concentration. If you don't cultivate that ability, Newport warns you'll likely fall behind as technology advances.
And the second reason, it's about magnified impact. This digital network revolution, it cuts both ways. If you create something truly useful, truly valuable, your potential audience, employers, customers, whatever, is essentially limitless now. Global reach, which greatly magnifies your potential reward. Big upside. But the flip side is, if what you produce is just, mediocre, average, you're kind of in trouble because it's now way too easy for your audience to find a better alternative online somewhere else. So to succeed today, you have to produce the absolute best stuff you're capable of producing. And that kind of peak production, it demands depth.
Right. In the old industrial economy, deep work was maybe crucial for a small professional class. Managers, scientists, and most workers just, crank widgets on an assembly line. Didn't need that intense focus in the same way. But as we shift more and more to an information economy, more of us are knowledge workers. And deep work is rapidly becoming a key currency. Maybe the key currency, even if most people haven't quite recognized this reality yet.
This leads us directly to what Newport calls the deep work hypothesis. It's the core idea of the book. It states, the ability to perform deep work is becoming increasingly rare at exactly the same time it is becoming increasingly valuable in our economy. Oh, think about that tension. Rarer, yet more valuable. As a consequence, he continues, the few who cultivate this skill and then make it the core of their working life will thrive. He even calls it the superpower of the 21st century.
Wow. Superpower. Okay, so to understand who thrives, let's look at this great restructuring idea. It comes from MIT economists Eric Brynjolfsson and Andrew McAfee, their book Race Against the Machine, and also Tyler Cowen's Average is Over. Basically, technology is advancing incredibly fast, but our skills and institutions aren't keeping pace. Intelligent machines are doing more tasks people used to do, and remote work means companies can hire the absolute best stars from anywhere, potentially leaving local average talent underemployed. But it's not all doom and gloom.
No. Definitely not. They identify 3 specific groups that will not only survive this shift, but actually thrive in this new landscape.
Okay, group 1. The high-skilled workers. These are the people who can work well and creatively with intelligent machines. Newport uses Nate Silver as an example. The stats geek turned election forecasting guru. He masters complex tools, intricate databases, stuff that requires deep understanding, not just surface-level use. You have to really know how these powerful machines work to bend them to your will creatively. It requires depth.
All right. Then group 2, the superstars. These are the people who are simply the best at what they do in their field, like David Heinemeier Hansson, creator of Ruby on Rails, powers huge sites like Twitter, Hulu. This guy splits his time between Chicago, Malibu, Spain, dabbles in race car driving. Why? Because advances in communication mean companies can find and hire the absolute best talent, like Hansson, for projects, often get better results for less than hiring a whole local team. This reminds me of that economist Sherwin Rosen's idea from 1981, winner-take-all markets. His point was that in many fields, the market hugely rewards the very top performers, leaving less for everyone else. Because talent isn't perfectly substitutable, right? Like Rosen said, hearing a succession of mediocre singers does not add up to a single outstanding performance. Consumers want the best. And now, thanks to global tech, this applies to way more fields than ever before.
Exactly. And the third group, the owners. These are the people with access to capital to invest in the new technologies.
Okay.
Think venture capitalists like John Doerr at Kleiner Perkins, funded Google, Amazon, Twitter. Because digital industries often need much less labor, a bigger slice of the pie flows to the owners of the machines and platforms. Remember Instagram, sold for $1 billion, with only 13 employees. Massive value, minimal labor cost.
Okay, so becoming an owner might be tough for most of us. That's not really our focus here. But the good news is the other 2 groups, the high-skilled workers and the superstars, those are accessible. You can work towards joining them. So the real question becomes, how do you actually do that? How do you join those winning groups?
Well, according to Newport, building on the work of those economists, 2 core abilities are absolutely crucial. First, the ability to quickly master hard things. Second, the ability to produce at an elite level. And that means both quality and speed.
Okay, let's connect these directly back to deep work. First, mastering hard things, learning complex new skills today. It's not like learning a simple consumer app. These intelligent machines, these new systems, they're complicated. You have to really hone your ability to master hard things, get good at learning tough stuff. And because tech changes so fast, this isn't a one-time thing. It's continuous learning. As Newport bluntly puts it, if you can't learn, you can't thrive.
And this is exactly where the concept of deliberate practice comes in, formalized by K. Anders Ericsson. Deliberate practice requires intense focus, your attention focused tightly on a specific skill. Plus, you need feedback to adjust. Crucially, Erickson found that diffused attention is almost antithetical to the focused attention required by deliberate practice. You simply cannot learn hard things effectively if you're constantly distracted. It requires deep work.
And there's a fascinating neurological reason for this. Myelin. Daniel Coyle talks about this. Skills are basically brain circuits, right? You get better by building up more myelin, this fatty tissue around the relevant neurons. It insulates them, makes them fire faster, cleaner, more efficient. Intense focus helps isolate those specific circuits, triggering the cells that produce myelin, literally cementing the skill physically in your brain. But distraction, it fires too many circuits kind of randomly, prevents that targeted myelination. So learning complex things is an act of deep work. You're physically rewiring your brain for high performance.
Okay, so that's learning. Now, what about producing at an elite level? Just mastering skills isn't enough, right? You have to turn that potential into tangible results that people value. Bottom line, again, very direct. If you don't produce, you won't thrive. You got to ship.
Consider Adam Grant, youngest tenured professor at Wharton, just incredibly productive. One year, 2012, he published 7 articles in major journals, plus a bestseller, give and take. That's an insane rate. His secret. Newport highlights Grant's batching of hard but important intellectual work into long, uninterrupted stretches.
Exactly. Grant is a prime example. He batches his teaching into the fall semester, frees up spring and summer for deep research focus. Even on a smaller scale, he'll block off 3 or 4 days to focus intensely on just one task, analyzing data, writing a draft, editing. He even uses an out-of-office autoresponder aggressively to protect that time. He's basically living the law of productivity. High-quality work produced equals time spent times intensity of focus. Grant maximizes that intensity variable. That's the key. Not just putting in hours, but maximizing focus during those hours.
And yeah, this isn't just for star professors. The author found the same pattern with high-scoring college students. They often studied fewer hours than lower-scoring peers, but did so with much higher intensity, less distraction.
The science behind this. Sophie Leroy's research on attention residue. Really interesting stuff. When you switch from task A to task B, your attention doesn't switch cleanly. It lags. A residue of your attention stays stuck on the first task, especially if it was unfinished or demanding. And this residue dampens your performance on the new task, task B. You're not fully present. Adam Grant avoids this by not switching constantly. He batches, stays focused, minimizes that residue, maximizes effectiveness.
This means even those really quick checks, glancing at email, checking a notification, they're harmful. You see a message you can't deal with right then. That unresolved switch creates residue. It subtly degrades your performance on what you were trying to focus on. The tough truth is, unless your talent and skills absolutely dwarf those of your competition, the deep workers among them will outproduce you. Intensity wins.
Okay, but what about the outliers? This raises an important point. What about someone like Jack Dorsey, co-founder of Twitter, CEO of Square, famously distracted, right? Ends days with stacks of meeting notes, believes in serendipitous availability. Fractured attention seems core to his style, yet undeniably, he's incredibly valuable, incredibly successful. How does that fit?
That's a really valid question. And it highlights something crucial. Jack Dorsey is a high-level executive, a CEO. His job is different. It requires him to be, as Newport puts it, a hard-to-automate decision engine. His value comes from processing lots of inputs. Quickly meetings, emails, site visits, and making high-level decisions. Asking a CEO like Dorsey to spend 4 hours locked away thinking deeply about one specific problem, that might actually be a waste of their unique value. They have smart people below them for that kind of deep dive.
Right. It's the specificity rule. Dorsey's approach works for his specific role, but that doesn't mean constant distraction is good for your job or most knowledge work jobs. Sure, some roles thrive on constant connection, maybe certain types of sales, lobbying. But Newport argues these niches are increasingly rare.
And it's easy to misjudge your own role. Don't be too quick to label your job as inherently non-deep. Newport mentions management consultants who were convinced they needed constant email access for clients. But a Harvard study actually forced them to disconnect more regularly. And guess what? They found clients didn't actually need that constant access, and the consultants' performance and job satisfaction improved because their attention was less fractured.
Similarly, managers often think they need to be constantly available, responding instantly to prevent logjams. But often, implementing better structured project management like Scrum with its efficient status meetings can actually free up more time for deeper thinking on strategy or complex problems. Improves their overall value significantly.
So the takeaway here, while deep work isn't the only valuable skill, and yes, some people succeed without prioritizing it, those roles are exceptions, and they seem to be shrinking. Unless you have really strong evidence that constant distraction is essential for your specific job, you are probably best served by giving serious consideration to depth. It's likely the better bet for most of us. So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, listening right now? We've taken this deep dive into Cal Newport's powerful ideas, right from Carl Jung meticulously building his stone tower, Jerry's Jason Ben's frankly astounding career pivot from spreadsheet jockey to high-paid coder. The core message is just crystal clear. The ability to engage in deep work, that focused, distraction-free concentration, it's becoming simultaneously rarer and more valuable in our world.
It really is the key to quickly mastering complex skills and the key to producing at an elite level, both of which are absolutely essential if you want to thrive in this fast-paced information economy. And remember, this isn't really about working harder in terms of hours. It's about working smarter, working more intensely, leveraging our cognitive capacity for maximum impact.
Remember Carl Jung's Bollingen Tower? He built it stone by stone, didn't he? Specifically to protect and maintain his ability to think deeply, to produce work that genuinely changed the world.
So as you navigate your own professional landscape, maybe consider this. How can you begin to build your own personal Bollingen Towers, metaphorically, or maybe even literally sometimes? How can you start cultivating the superpower of the 21st century in your own life, in your own work?
Because ultimately, as Cal Newport puts it so simply, a deep life is a good life. What stands out to you from our deep dive today? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep digging deeper.